chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You hear with some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Oh, there we go. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for letting me know that. It's all of this stuff that's going on behind the scenes that I'm trying to. Normally, it doesn't do that, but let's go here. Let me just shrink this down. I'm sending out the link so that you all can see me. I hope that went out right because I'm now doing the Instagram for cmrtv.com. So, yeah. Yep. Connie, did you see it? Mighty God, you brute. I just got it. I'll share it. I'll share it with you in a little bit what that is. But good afternoon, Cayman Islands. Good morning to our global family, and welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks right here. Yeah, Voices of the Islands. Here's something else. Conversations for the World, a podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. I'm your host, Sabrina. It's good to be back with you this evening. Pretty still windy, rainy. I love it. I got one particular friend who is going to give me the riot act because this is about 3 days now. I think we've been trying to meet each other, and I'm living up to my name as Caymanian. Once it rained, I am leaving home. So Tisha, I know you're going to hold me up, but I did not leave home today. But before I getting into getting a whooping from her, the content you're about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, and our participants, is intended solely for general, informational, and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional legal, medical, or financial advice. No. I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for your specific concerns. Bridge Media Limited and all its affiliates disclaims all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And welcome to all our new followers. I'm seeing some positive feedback that I'm getting in the social media space, recognizing the level of the content being shared here. And even though, it's a touch and go, here in the Cayman Islands, it's hard to really find that sweet spot, so to speak, that will provoke discussion that is not only meaningful, but to be able to capture an audience, encourage feedback and dialogue that makes the space worthwhile visiting. Now, whether you do it live, we know that many of you join us pretty much sometimes after I'm done. I've had a few reached out to me saying, hey, it's almost like binge watching. I'm trying to catch up. And I thank you for that. And thank you for giving me your feedback as well, even some clarity, because when you get all the information coming in, you get them on WhatsApp, you're getting them here with you live from YouTube and so forth. Sometimes based on when they're commenting, I could miss or misunderstand the comment, but I try my best to at least answer all the questions. So it's good that even though, sometimes our live shows based on guests or no guests at all, that your participation is key. And that is really the marker for me as to where I'm going and for future discussions as well. You've been seeing a lot of open mic, and it's not that we're not getting persons to come on as guests, but it's based on the topics at hand. And what I'm noticing very quickly with us, our community here, people are a little certain topics they don't want to really engage in, and I can understand that. I totally appreciate them. So when they don't actually, Instagram is wonky, guys. My apologies for whatever's going on with Instagram. But yeah, it all depends on who's willing to stand up and to really speak out. So yeah, it is. Yeah, Shaq, I coming to you. I got to be able to play it here, but I will do that. And I promise you by this week, Shaq, you keep asking for that. I'll play it. But it is good to keep it on topic, things that is topical and things that hit home. And this is why sometimes I love doing these open mic, because when the callers call in, it really gives me an idea of really what's happening in our community. So I'm hoping that you're liking these almost freestyle shows, but it doesn't mean that I don't have to still do research on content and all that sort of stuff. Was it Miss Barbara G yesterday? Somebody asked about, yeah, I noticed that. Somebody mentioned yesterday about whether or not Cayman had a catastrophe bond. And I said, based on how the premier spoke about that, I didn't think we did. I wasn't wrong, but I found something that proves that it's something that they're considering. And I'll break that down at some point during today's show. So things like that, I pretty much are scouring a lot of headlines, seeing what's happening locally. And we know about digital currency and all that sort of stuff with blockchain and going into this national ID. Did you know that there was a conference that took place here from the 9th to the 11th and what that means and how it could shake our financial industry? Did you know that? I got some little tidbits on that for you as well. But before we go into that, let's usher in officially. Yes, we're halfway to the weekend. It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. And I know it was Bodentown's District Day, Bodentown Heritage Day, okay? It was their Heritage Day at Miss Josie's, I want to get it right, that park there. And I know they've probably been having a warm time with the weather because we've had cloudy spells today as forecasted, which I'll go into the weather for you in a second. But I'm hoping that that goes on until late into the evening. It's a little tricky when you have your Heritage Day during the week and people have to go back to work unless you're fortunate enough to be able to take off the entire week to enjoy the week's festivities. But yeah, I wish them all success out there in the district of Bodentown. Yeah. So, it was. Thank you for that update. But here's the latest forecast. If you're even thinking on, okay, after you knock off work, you're going to just drive through to see if you can get some dinner tonight because you missed that good Cayman cooking. The latest weather update from our Cayman Islands National Weather Service calls that what you're seeing right now is a stationary front that is southeast of the Cayman area and is expected to continue supporting cloudiness and some isolated showers over the next 24 hours. Now, a tight pressure gradient will continue to support strong winds and rough seas across the Cayman Islands today. A gradual decrease in winds and seas is expected from tomorrow morning as this pressure gradient begins to weaken. I actually must say I don't like that. I wouldn't mind if it stuck around just a little bit more. But the Marine Watch is in effect and will likely be downgraded to a small craft alert tomorrow, November 13th. Our forecast for tonight calls for cloudy to overcast skies with a 40% chance of showers. Temperatures will fall to the low 70s degrees Fahrenheit Winds will be east to northeast at 20 to 25 knots, and seas will be rough with wave heights of 8 to 10 feet. A marine watch is in effect. Now, tomorrow is calling for partly cloudy to cloudy skies with a 40% chance of showers. Temperatures will rise to the low to mid 80s degrees Fahrenheit, and wind will be east to northeast at 15 to 20 knots. Now, seas will be rough with wave heights of 6 to 8 feet, and a small craft alert will be in effect. For all of you boaters out there who knows you make your living from the fishing, yeah, today's high tide was at 5:01. Yes, and a low is expected for 11:34 p.m. Tomorrow calls for high tide at 5:52 a.m. with a low at 11:47. Sunset today will be at 5:46. And sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:32 a.m. in the morning. Now, the outlook calls for a gradual decrease in cloud cover is expected from tomorrow, with possible isolated showers lingering into the weekend as remnant moisture from the frontal boundary lingers across the Northwest Caribbean. So there you have it. That is the latest weather forecast that we have here for the Cayman Islands. Thank you. Compliments of the Cayman Islands National Weather Service. So, don't let it stop you. Don't be a me. Go out and support the Heritage Day festivities out there in Town. If you haven't already been, maybe you called in and you had your pre-booked lunch and you got your lunch already, but now you're coming from home and you want to take into the entertainment. That's going on. Yeah. Tomorrow is Thursday. We'll be in the district of Georgetown, which has the best food. Yeah, I said it. Not going there with you, Connie. Best food. Well, we want to say happy birthday today. Let's do some birthday shout outs to John Wesley. John Wesley is celebrating a birthday today, and he's celebrating a birthday along with our very own former premier, Mr. Wayne Panton. Knowing Mr. Wayne, he is a low-key person, doesn't like the attention. He would probably have preferred just going under the radar all day today without nobody knowing, but it doesn't work that way. So we want to wish him and Dane Ramoon, and if there's anybody that I am missing, happy birthday. I hope you've had an enjoyable day and that you will live to see many, many more. But it is what it is. You just celebrate life for what it is, no matter how you choose to do it. With everything that's happening around us and in the world, we have to be so thankful for, just being able to celebrate with our friends and loved ones, no matter what, all the time. And when birthdays come, why not? Why not celebrate them? So, we just want to make sure that we keep abreast of what's happening, what's going on, and definitely keep you in the know. Let's see who's with me this evening and sticking around. Definitely Connie Bonnie is here. She was the first to comment, for the record. Connie and Annie Stevens. Yeah, I know that the sound was off for a little bit. Damian Henry, good evening to you as well. You guys better learn how to read. But no, it's funny because of all of the stuff that's happening in the background. Sometimes you don't realize that after the intro video or the song plays, that it doesn't automatically click on your mic. And whatever updates it did the other day, it doesn't automatically put on the mic. So thank you for keeping me in the know. That's why your feedback is key for me. Yes. This is an inside joke, actually. Mike to God. I need to get those clippings. Miss Donnett was telling me, to get some of those, but I would be copying that gentleman. Hey, Shaq. Hey, Sabrina. I must say you have the brightest theme songs, both. Oh, the election song. You like foolishness too, that will get you jumping. That will definitely get you jumping. And I promised you all to share it here, Shaq. That's my fault. I will be playing it. I will download it and do it on here just so you can hear it for fun. Let me work that out so we can play it tomorrow. I know I got it, but I don't want to mess around and click something and then bang, what a mess. Everything goes haywire. But yeah, a lot of people have been asking for that. It was fun. The artist, I'm hoping to one day be interviewed here. Just he's a family friend. And I want to thank him. And I'll tell you more when we hear of him. He's making waves in the Caribbean and definitely in his country. He's always very busy. But yeah, that was I enjoyed working with him, and it was fun. It was fun. Led me to exactly where I am because we moved right here. Jasmine, good evening to everyone from Hartford, Connecticut. OMG, Jasmine. What's the weather? What's the temperature there like? I know the cold snap is gone and you probably had snow, if not flurries. You had snow because there were certain parts of the panhandle of the Sunshine State yesterday that went down to 28 degrees in Florida. Yeah. Punta Gorda was, I think, 39. But then there was another part of the Sunshine State that went as low as 29 degrees. And I know it was a bit cool here as well last night. Many of you were talking about it. Hey, Glenn, it's good to have you here. Donnie Bonnie, what? Were you flying? Did you go off somewhere? What happened? I hope you were okay. But it's good to have you back with us. Good evening, Miss Pat. It's good to have you as well. Yeah, and you're telling me it was raining in Bodden Town. Thank you for that update, Miss Marjorie. Happy you told me what day it is. Oh, okay. That usually happens, Miss Marjorie, after a long weekend, which is why I literally do it. Because I remember one day opening up, boy, thanks for Connie saving the day. Your girl was just celebrating it was Friday. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was a Tuesday. Whatever happened, I was already at Friday. So yes, Miss Marjorie, but worse when it's a long weekend. The holidays are coming up. I know people are kind of shutting down after Cayman Thanksgiving and just a little bit before that. You really see people get into the festive sounds time anyhow and tend to lay back and all that sort of stuff. But the world continues. We still have persons that are picking up their pieces of life, and it will be not a joyous Christmas or a traditional Christmas that a lot of our neighbors will be actually celebrating this year. So we have so much to be thankful for. And this is why you were asking, I don't know. We had, you were asking if it was raining. I don't know, but I know we had some showers here in Prospect. Yeah. So at the end of the day, we have so much to be thankful for. And that's why I take the time to actually celebrate people's birthdays once I am aware of them. And just show how much we appreciate them. And you can share your pictures with me, 936-8255. That is the number that has WhatsApp on it. And once I'm aware and you got a picture that you want me to share, my love, I will definitely be celebrating with it and sharing those with you. As you can see on the Sabrina Turner's Community Activist Facebook page, we're all on Instagram, and I usually do little reels and add music to it just for fun. So yeah, you just share them with me and make the world know. Yeah. Location at Bodden Town. Okay, let me get this for you so we can tell you exactly where it is. It is at there. Bodden Town at Nurse Josie's Center in Bodden Town. Nurse Josie's Center. I'm putting it up here. Nurse Josie's Center in Bodden Town is where the Bodden Town thing is happening today. Nurse Josie's Center in Bodden Town this evening, and they go on until, I guess that also depends on weather permitting, but they have a very good spirit in Bodden Town, as I know, and those festivities will go on. And then tomorrow they're in town in Cardinal Avenue as well. And then Friday night will be East End Heritage Park. So there you have it. That is the lineup for the rest of this week, district days or heritage days, whatever you know them as. Then they go off then to the sister islands. So I'm hoping that you will see that. Hoping I'm answering your questions. Miss Lucille, all the way over there in the UK. You keeping up? Yeah, God bless you too, my love. It's good to have you with us nevertheless. Good evening, Donna. Good afternoon. Tomorrow is Winston. Yes, Mr. Winston. Okay. Well, we got big Winston up. Thank you for telling me. I will definitely big up Mr. Winston. What are you planning? He probably going, no, weather's not good, so he's not going to go out in a boat. Yeah. Yeah, I know that we normally would have Michelma here just helping us, but you know that she had a loss in her family tragically. And we know why she's not here with us. So we still will keep her and her family in our thoughts and prayers. I know she's going to be traveling very soon if she's not already gone, given the circumstances. So yeah, but that's an update on her. So there we have it. Yep. That's what's happening. Please be careful on the road, guys. There's another accident alert that happened like less than an hour ago in the A.L. Thompson's roundabout. And this accident involves yet again another fit in a Honda CRV, looks like. And you want people to navigate these roundabouts, especially with all of this rain that's happening. We want you to exercise caution. Yeah. Be very careful navigating the roads. There have been a lot of MVAs on the road, and worse that the roads are wet. So we want you to drive with extreme caution. Thank you for that. Okay, well, keep it posted. And then we want you to be safe as we traverse the road. So far, so good. We got to keep our fingers crossed here. And as we head into the hurricane season, gosh, that's behind us, to the holiday season, we know that we will see a bumped up presence in our police officers on the road. And we want to do our part as well so that we can all do this season with no MVAs, no deaths on our streets. They can be avoided if we all just act responsibly, in my humble opinion. So let's see what we can do. I was speaking to a friend. Remember, this is open mic. 936-8255 is the number to call to join in on the conversations. I am here. I'm game for you. So we can go there. What's bugging you? What's bothering you? We're here for it. So I want you to be a part of this discussion, which you all are. And it's good to have you commenting here and me actually answering you back. Oh, Connie and Monica, I got your sample. Pretty much you guys are the first to get Hibisco. One of the firsts to get Hibisco. Remember Ted Green of Ted Green Fragrances were on the show, and you and Monica won. So I'm going to arrange, I got it just shortly before going live. I'm going to arrange to get these to you so that you can be one of the first persons actually ahead of the game for the Hibisco fragrance. This is the latest fragrance that's being released by Ted Green. So I got your packages for you so that you'll get, he is still in the beginning phase, early phases of the official launch. And we will hear more of this. So this is pretty much just a teaser for you as well. But I'm just so happy for Ted being able to get it out there to share this for you. And congratulations. Congratulations to you. It's an early birthday presents, compliments for you, Connie Bonnie, because you're celebrating a birthday on the 15th. Yeah, so you were fortunate enough to win it. Yeah, there you go. And Monica, I know I'll get your feedback. Oh yeah, she probably busy in Bodden town, Monica, this evening. So yeah, you'll get all of those delivered within the next 24 hours. I was speaking to, you know how the weather is with people in the construction industry, but I was speaking to a friend earlier, and I didn't realize what was happening in the construction industry. And I remember Sandra speaking the other day about how much nationalities we have here. And it wasn't until I replayed that it was mentioned that I replayed hearing Sandra was shocked. And you could see the expression on her face when she said, there's only one person in our system from Turks and Caicos. Did you know that the Turks and Caicos is a British overseas territory, right? They're just like us. And I'm realizing now why possibly we don't have a lot of people here in the Cayman Islands, especially if you're in the trades and construction. Let me tell you something. I did my own little digging after the conversation, because while we're here debating really the immigration reform, which is by all means needed, guess what Turks and Caicos is doing? That jurisdiction, based on the environment that they're actually creating right now, is scooping up skilled workers. because they're in the construction sites back here are already beginning to feel it. Yeah. Pretty much imagine the situation right now that some contractors are going. Bear in mind, as a contractor in Cayman, you got, let's say, for example, you got 3 active major projects going on that comes with a contract, comes with deadlines looming, and suddenly you're seeing people not even finishing their work permits, but they're resigning. Not for any ill will or bad treatment. They're just like, for whatever reason, and some of them are bold enough to say to their employers, we go into Turks and Caicos because the packages that they're offering over there, I can do better over there. Now, they're not resigning because they're going to another job here, that skill set is here. They are going to the Turks and Caicos. Because right now what they're seeing is a construction boom. And it's offering better pay, better housing allowance, even lunch, I'm hearing from some of their big developers, and the streamlining of their work permit transitions. And it's creating an environment that really much, when compared here, and sometimes, you know, construction is slow, they're locked in with their employer, or the employer doesn't have sufficient work for them to do, and they can go and get a work someplace else. That freedom of movement now with what is being proposed, that you have to lock in for 2 years, whatever. We understand that. What I'm saying is we're doing a comparison that what I'm being told is that workers are actually just upping and leaving because they see where this is debate. The town hall meetings have ended. It's going to be debated on the floor of Parliament, and people are doing what they got to do in order to make an income for themselves. And the environment, remember, right now that looms is that, okay, fine, we don't feel as though we're wanted. Okay? And bottom line, the load, the manpower right now is slowly but surely, that deficit is being felt. And pretty much the facts on the ground is that skilled workers from here, mid-contract, is opting out of work permits, renewals, and even those who were on rollover, when they were tried to be contacted and all that sort of stuff, they can't be reached to find out if they would have an interest. Mind you, they would have been here for 8, 9 years, whatever the case may be, have learned the trades. And you're not talking about your average carpenter, you know, you're talking about team leaders, you're talking about site supervisors and that sort of stuff. And if you're thinking it's only Jamaican nationals, you're wrong. Canadians, Hondurans, Costa Ricans, Dominicans, it is all nationalities that are opting out and going to another British overseas territory or jurisdiction because of the development packages. The developers over there, their packages that they are offering, and it is slowly but surely being very attractive for those that are here. And the impact, the industry impact, is now slowly but surely being felt. But stick a pin. You will not necessarily feel it immediately, and here's why. It's now November 12th. Things would be somewhat being ramped up in order to finish up before the Christmas holidays, because we know a lot of our foreign workers go home to spend the holidays with their families, right? But look at the environment that's been created. Jamaica is a disaster zone, and many are trying to help their families and loved ones rebuild. A lot of them now are gathering up stuff to go home to try and rebuild. There's no ifs, ands, or buts if they may come back, okay? Number 2, Turks and Caicos as well, before Melissa, they got a touch too. So when these big developers that have all of these high-end condos and stuff and hotels that are being built knows the type of laws and regulations that we have in building codes and all that sort of stuff, of course it makes any person working in the Cayman Islands attractive. Of course they would want to keep those skill sets. And guess what? You can say you can't move from one employer to the next because of stability for your employer, but you can't stop them from resigning and just leaving completely. There's still a knock-on impact. Yeah. So the industry impact that this can have, if it happens really sudden, is that local construction firms or businesses will have delays, and they could possibly be breached in contractual handover dates. And when you look at the rising cost in the way in which the bureaucratic process now, I'm being told, and it's going to have a knock-on effect because it's costing them even more to process work permits, including and understanding that we want to lessen the amount of work permits. But do we have enough skill sets to be able to fill this gap at the rate in which they're going? Because there is a jurisdiction right now that is more attractive. So when you look right now at the Turks and Caicos, why maybe that jurisdiction right now is a magnet. I looked at some, let me pull it up here. There is a 14.1% growth surge right now. Turks and Caicos, and the construction sector is booming, driven by luxury tourism developments and infrastructure upgrades. And their government, I'm coming to you, caller, the government incentives, you got Minister Chuck Musgrove is actively pushing for inclusive development, prioritizing workforce integration and community benefit. Now, they have premium packages that developers are offering competitive salaries, relocation support, and long-term contracts, making the TCI a tempting alternative for Cayman's skilled labor force. And this isn't just about construction, let me tell you. It's about possibly policy, planning, and people. And at the end of the day, what does this say now eventually about our labor climate when our talent is being poached by our neighbors? Now, nothing wrong with that, but it will have some form of knock-on effects. And this is, I'm not in the industry. These are just conversations that I'm having with persons in the industries. And I've heard the conversation as well on other platforms where persons are having a hard time right now. Hello, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Evening, Sabrina. It's Johan Moxham. How's it going?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you. How are you?
Always enjoy listening to you, especially when you're stuck in traffic.
Oh,
Everything's at a snail's pace out on the road here.
well, thank God for traffic.
No. I listen even when there's none. But so I just wanted to jump into the discussion and the debate and just say, I hear you, but competition is, whether it be Turks and Caicos or any other jurisdiction, competition is the way is the way of the world. People are going to always try and find the best deal, best compensation package for themselves and their families. There's no doubt about that, whether you're in construction or financial services or anything else. But let's give ourselves a little bit of credit and acknowledge the obvious. There is nobody in key industries here that is going to just leave and not want to come back. And even if people do leave, there are thousands others desperate to come and work and make a living in the Cayman Islands, whether you be in financial services, construction, medicine, so on and so forth. The Cayman Islands is the premium offshore destination in the Caribbean. When you look at the quality of life, when you look at the ability to make a living, when you look at the earning capacity, safety, security, and the fact that it is relatively first world. If people think that going to the Turks and Caicos is the way for them, best of luck to you. Knock yourselves out. Do what you feel is best for you and your loved ones and situations. But you're not going to be able to do in the Turks and Caicos what you do here in Cayman if you are a outsider. They are not warm and fuzzy and welcoming, and Caymanians might moan and groan and complain, but those people over there decide, no, not on my watch, not today. so on and so forth. So instead of us fearing the loss of key personnel or in any industry, let's use this as an opportunity to say that everybody's time comes, runs out, goes, and we get to reset the clock with a new set of people. Because the one thing the world is not short of is people that want to come, work, live, settle, and experience the Cayman Islands, given all that it is. And you can compare us to anybody else in the Caribbean. We are a first world country in comparison. If you ask anybody in financial services in Cayman right now, you got an opportunity to go and get the same job in PCI, in BVI, in Anguilla, in St. Kitts and Nevis, in Trinidad, Tobago, Barbados, Bahamas. They're not going to do that. You know why? Cayman is the jewel of the Caribbean. First world in most instances, but more importantly, safety, security, and the strength of the Cayman dollar is such that people really and truly will always do what's best for them, their situations, but more importantly, their pockets. So if people in the construction industry, skilled or unskilled, decide we're going to go take up TCI on these offers, that's their prerogative and that's what's best for them. But we're going to have people coming in to replace them, because if you look at the history of the Cayman Islands over the last 40, 50 years, the one thing we're never short of is people coming to work here.
Well, Johan, to be honest, my question then goes into, well, if that is indeed the case, how do we fill the gap then with our very own, which is why people were calling for it anyhow? Do we have the labor pool to fill these roles quick enough? We're not stopping people from leaving. I hear everything you say, but what I'm saying is contracts still are in play and people expect deliverables is where I'm going.
Yeah, no, I can hear you, and
because we want our own to fill those jobs, but do we have it to fill these gaps? Let's say, I guess we won't know until the new year.
Let's examine this a bit further. If we're talking about our own and we're talking about Caymanian people,
yeah.
Let's just use financial services as an example. If we're talking about remedying and making sure our people come through, if you look at the total number of work permits in the Cayman Islands, and I think it's something like 38,000 work permits. If you look at financial services, we, the Cayman Islands, and people of the Cayman Islands, natives of the Cayman Islands, we do not produce enough locals to fill those jobs as lawyers, accountants, IT persons, insurance executives or reinsurance managers, so on and so forth. So if we're going to have a conversation about the future of Cayman and what that looks like, let's start with realistic expectations and own the fact that we will never produce enough people, especially qualified people for the jobs. I'm not saying that it isn't possible, because we got some really bright people. We've got a generation of kids that I think are brighter than when you and I were in school and so on and so forth. But when you look at the sheer volume of what is needed in the workforce, if you look at
the pace, the timing,
and at the pace, we will never produce enough Caymanians to fill those jobs. What we need to do is make sure that every Caymanian who is has the aptitude, the positive attitude, and the qualifications and willingness to work hard is afforded the opportunity at the interview stage, at the gainful employment stage, and ensure that you help their professional development so that once they get into the job, the confidence is there to say, hey, Sabrina deserves an opportunity to go from a senior to a manager, or a manager to a director, or a senior manager, or whatever the title is, because that's where I think we're not understanding the needs of industry.
Right.
And I'm not saying every shop is the same, because you have some shops and some employers out there that have no interest in hiring Caymanians or promoting Caymanians.
I'm glad you brought that up, because some people are saying just their nationality does not allow them an interview or even the door. And even if they manage to get the job, then you have the environment makes it almost impossible for the Caymanians to survive.
Listen, the biggest problem that we got in Cayman is this: we don't have real honest conversations, because when you hear people speak, and alcohol is a truth serum,
Mm.
they will tell you that, boy, Caymanians lazy, Caymanians this, Caymanians that. And I will say this, we all have our moments where we've experienced a situation like that where we go, boy, that was disappointing that I came in and didn't show up
Yeah.
the way that we
Yeah.
thought that they could.
It's true.
But the counter to that is not everybody from Canada, not everybody from South Africa, not everybody from England, not everybody from the US, not everybody from Europe is this 5-star
Mhm.
superstar employee. But people in management positions and in ownership positions, they are comfortable with theirs. The only people that aren't comfortable with theirs are Caymanians, because Caymanians fight against each other in the workplace to make sure that I just don't like Sabrina's attitude. You see her, the way she dressed, she acts like she's a beauty queen.
It
You know, every
doesn't
time you
matter
go to
what I
work-
bring to the table. They're just doing it for those reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the difference between us and those that come to Cayman, because those that come to Cayman and they recognize really early, I am never leaving this place.
Mm-hmm.
This is the equivalent of winning the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, I'm going to do whatever I need to say, do. I go walk the dog. I go join Rotary. I go do whatever it takes to make sure that I can tick the box, get my points, and go from there. But if you ask the questions about what real integration is
Mhm.
between us as Caymanians and those persons that are working, there is very little integration, because how many people you know in the workplace can honestly say, I know a Caymanian family, I've been to that Caymanian family house, I've had them over to my house, and we have really immersed ourselves into what a Caymanian is. And here's the sad part of the equation. There are not that many Caymanians, so if you wanted to, you could make that happen, right?
But what do you,
You could-
what would you say for those Caymanians who automatically look at the pigment of these people's skins, see them in the financial industry, for example, or even the legal fraternity? They don't hang at those places, like where they would normally hang out, because they don't feel it. Oh, that's bougie, I don't belong there. It's as though we are formulating, we as in Caymanians, really block them from being a part of our circle. I gave an example yesterday of being at Cabana and an exchange that I had with a visitor. They were hungry to engage with locals. And then I met somebody as well who had already been here for 9 years. And, the word that was used in the exchange was expat, but it was as though I would have been one that may have branded one as being, oh, well, I'm just an expat, so what I say doesn't matter. And I had to correct that. I'm like, no, that isn't the perception of all of us, because he had immersed himself. He loved being very local. But how much of them, as you rightfully say, would ever be welcomed into a true Caymanian home? Because we ourselves block it. We actually put them in these boxes sometimes.
But no, it's a two-way street, because you can't tell me that everybody's going to open their door and say, Johan, we
Yeah.
want you to come over for dinner. Because the way that I talk, the opinions that I hold, and the fact that I don't give two tiddlywinks about your feelings,
Mhm.
because you got to talk straight, I got to talk straighter, and I'm home.
Mhm.
My point is, we got to stop beating up on our own and recognize that for this thing to work, they got to get along with us and show us the respect that we show them. I'm going to give you an example.
Okay.
You're in the workplace. We grow up and we are super respectful of people. Miss Sabrina, how you doing, ma'am? Good morning, Miss Sabrina. You all right, Miss Sabrina? Can I get you something? Blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you calling me? Yeah, Johan, I need you to do blah, blah, blah. I just showed you respect, and it's a small thing,
Mhm.
but it's an important thing. If I can show you enough respect to recognize your seniority, your age, or your position,
Mhm.
and call you Mr. This, Mr. That, whatever, because that's how we were taught, I think it's important that they reciprocate some measure of mutual respect instead of, well, we're just to help. Because
Right.
there are a lot of Caymanians that act like the help, get treated like the help, but they're brilliant. And it's because we are a docile, really laid back people, and we always extend the very best courtesies and respect that our parents have taught us.
Mhm.
But that isn't necessarily reciprocated, because I'll tell you this. I know everybody's cup of tea, but
Mhm.
the real ones that are here, that have been here 30, 40 years, they're a completely different creature
It's
than
true.
those that are
The
showing up
new
here
ones,
today.
the new ones that are coming.
Okay?
Yeah. Mhm.
The ones that are showing up here today, they are economic migrants. They're mercenary-like in their behavior and attitudes, and they're not really, really, really interested in integration, in involvement, and in having a mutually respectful relationship. And I'll give you an example. How in the hell can you be here 3 months and say, why do you guys eat turtle? Oh my God, you shouldn't do that. That's part of our culture. If you don't like it, you don't need to eat it, but you need to hush up about it.
But are we
The
doing
difference
enough to support our very own culture for them to not take that stance? Because again, yesterday's show, I think we need to do a lot more. This is
Yeah,
not by
but
any means bashing anyone. I'm just saying if
I'm not.
we stop bad mouthing each other as well at some of these watering holes, talking about each other instead of banding together like they're doing, I feel that they would say, well, wow, these people are really together. They're not bad mouthing each other. They're seeing them supporting Caymanian business. They're protective of their own. I think you would see a change in the way some of them behave as well, caller, to be
Yeah.
honest.
No. And I can agree with what you're saying, but the problem with us is Sabrina not supposed to make it, because if Sabrina makes it, Sabrina better than me. Everybody has a chance to make it if you understand the rules of engagement, the environment that you're in, and what you need to do to make the right impression.
Correct.
But we spend a lot of energy going, look at her, look
Tearing
at that car that
down,
she got,
tearing
she
down.
gets that, blah blah blah. It's. Don't get me wrong, human nature is what it is. But the energy that they spend on defending, protecting, encouraging, and promoting each other, Caymanians could do. Caymanians need to do the same thing, because we are losing a lot of what you're talking about. And it isn't because somebody took it from us. It's because we decided to just be easy marks. And I'm not saying to be militant. I'm not saying to be rude. I'm not saying to be disrespectful. But respect begets respect. And sometimes if you show up and you don't understand the circle or the room that you're in, take a pulse of what's going on. But if Sabrina knows that Johan is acting the fool, Sabrina's supposed to roll up and go, hey, yo, dial that down a little bit, because, you know, you're standing out too much right now. And we just kind of want to get you in a situation where you can continue to be here and move forward. But a lot of us don't, because we're afraid of, I got to protect my position, so much so that I don't care if you crash out and if you flame out.
It's a me, I, and not in the best interest of us.
And that's the difference between them. Listen, there are churches in Cayman that are established where and God is for all of us. God is universal. God is for every color, class, creed. And you'll have people tell you, no, well, this is our church and we speak our language at this church. That's not a point. It's just worship. And if you can't have people in a house of faith or a gathering of people to worship because of color, class, creed, or something, there's something wrong with that setup. And we need to do a better job of figuring out who really wants to be in Cayman because it's a fantastic place with really good people, versus those who are here as economic migrants and are pirates and really and truly want to turn Cayman into a smaller version of where they've come from. Because this is Cayman. This is not Canada. This is not South Africa. This is not the UK. You guys have got problems there. We don't want you to import your problems to us and then make us feel and treat us accordingly as if we are a bother to you on the place where you decided to come. Because here's the thing that nobody really thinks about. Just because you have a work permit doesn't mean you have a job for life. And just because you have a work permit doesn't mean you have security of tenure. Because when you get fired or you get let go, technically, unless you got another gig or another job coming, you're supposed to be gone, because that's how it works. But in Cayman, we make it really easy for people. And then we have a lot of sellouts. We have a lot of sellout Caymanians. We have a lot of sellout Caymanian politicians who basically will do anything for a buck. And they're the ones that they love. Sabrina, I'm going to say this. You are a fantastic person. You're bright. I've known you a very long time. Your heart's in the right place. But you are not their cup of tea, because when you walk into the room, you know I am the baddest girl in you. And they can't handle that. So therefore, the story has to go that you're this, you're that, you're whatever. And they changed the narrative. Facilitate that. We facilitate that, and we go, yeah, Sabrina, like, listen, Caymanians, I don't care if we have an argument, if we have a squabble, if we have a disagreement, but let's defend ours, because I promise you, they are defending theirs. And that's what we're not doing. And that's why we're losing. And that's why our culture is being eroded. everybody else's culture matters here except for us.
Yeah. But what do you say?
So
Because you don't want to paint it with a broad brush. We really do have those persons who have come here and have decided to raise their families here. It's all about a balance and have really immersed themselves, be a part of who we are, who really want to be Caymanian, to be a part of us. What would you say to those persons with the loudest voices now in the room that even though they have done everything to be a part of our society, they still feel as though they will never be good enough?
I think that we are a welcoming people. And if you show Caymanians genuine respect, love, and reciprocate what we give, a Caymanian will give you the shirt off their back. They'll give you a plate of food. We will never turn anybody away because we come from a welcoming people. The problem is we have failed to appreciate that people take advantage of some of that because we're naive into thinking.
We don't see it before. We don't see it coming.
We can see it within our own, but we don't see it within somebody that has come here. And all I'm saying is, not everybody that comes to Cayman is bad. There are some fantastic people that have worked in partnership with Caymanians that have lived here 30, 40, 50, 60 years. They have made Cayman their home, and they know who you are. They know who your mama is. They know how we grew up. They remember you as a child.
Yes.
They remember all of us. And then there are people that just live in their bubble.
Correct.
And they don't know nothing of Caymanian people. And they're suspicious of everything and everybody. Living in a gated community isn't enough. Okay? Buying land in Cayman is not enough. If you can't, I'll give you the best example that I believe in. Sports is the most important thing, in my mind, to integrate all types of people, right? Because it's recreational, especially sports with kids.
Right.
Because if you can seed or plant the seed whereby my kid is playing with your kid and your kid is playing with his kid, there's a union and a link that develops whereby I can't make nobody say nothing bad about little Sabrina because I know little Sabrina my entire life. And little Johnny came in from England, and little Johnny came and he went to school with me. And I know he's good people because his parents ensured that there was a level of integration with us and so on and so forth. So you're building generational connectivity and friendships. And once you sort it out with the kids and the kids understand, no, you can't talk about Johnny like that, Daddy. Because I've known Johnny since I'm 4 years old, 5 years old. We went to high school together.
Exactly. Because remember, when we were in school, it was mixed. It wasn't it wasn't no segregation. 100%. We realized that. And those relationships remain today.
We got to go back to, and that's exactly the point that I'm making. I'm not calling into the anti-foreigner or pro-Caymanian. I'm talking about the balance of we need to show up smarter and we need to understand that we are the luckiest people on the planet.
We are.
To be
We're
born
blessed.
in Cayman.
Blessed.
And people will always come here because when you compare Cayman to the rest of the Caribbean, we are the jewel. And if you doubt that, how come nobody ever leaves?
Speaks volumes.
It's a legitimate question.
But
as bad as
what will
everything
it
is that
take
they
for
complain
us
about,
to maintain this? We have set a very high bar, but we're seeing what politics can do. We can see what a younger generation, and you listening to them, where they feel as though they're not heard. They're feeling that their voice doesn't matter. We're seeing the delicate balance when it comes to our environment, sustainable living, access to jobs and that sort of stuff. You and I are speaking as a generation of 1974 being born, right? But
right.
What does that say to DJ, to Christopher, my children? What does that say to your son? With what we covet because of the environment that we grew up in, but now you're looking, as you rightfully said earlier on, these kids are smarter than even when we were at such a younger age. Will they be seeing the Cayman that we are seeing it from a historical context in order to take it forward where really what you're saying would really matter unless it is enshrined in laws? And those are not, laws that they be amended based on political will.
No, I hear you, but we're now in a phase in the journey of life where everybody in their country wants their people to come first. Okay?
Understood.
In
And
America,
we
in
should.
the UK,
we should.
so therefore, I don't feel bad when, as a proud Caymanian, I say Caymanians matter and we should come first. And our culture and our heritage and our way has to be important and should be respected. Well, why are you eating turtle? Because that's what we've done since the beginning of time. You don't need to eat turtle, but you need to shut up about it. Really and truly. Okay? I don't eat deer. I've never eaten deer in my life. I don't want to eat deer. I don't want to eat alligator. And I'm just using that as silly example.
Venison
but there are
is
a lot
delicious.
of people that show up here. There are a lot of people show up here that have strong opinions without taking the time to understand anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I've said a mouthful, but I wanted to
Thank you so
get through the
much.
traffic, and no problem, babe. Keep up the good work.
I'm happy that I was able to entertain you because I wanted to go into get your opinion on this expert's warning for this uncorrelated Cayman 2025 conference that took place, where some of the exchanges at that conference that said experts warned that blockchain's distribution could pretty much impact our financial center here.
Yeah, listen, we'll just adapt. We'll have to incorporate some of that into the way of life, but the jurisdiction in itself will always.
Are we poised are we posturing ourselves to be able to go with this? Because it's going to be here, whether or not you're into digital currency or not.
We've got some of the sharpest minds in industry, whether they're Caymanian or non-Caymanian. The one thing that they agree on is financial services is the key to sustaining the first world or the positive sort of stature of Cayman Islands, of the Cayman Islands. So we're not going to do anything to disrupt that. We have a fantastic Minister of Finance, of Financial Services in the Premier. He gets it. So I'm confident when you look at his team at the ministry level, Dax Bazdeo is, in my mind, one of the strongest and best chief officers we've ever had in the history of the civil service. The guy knows his stuff, and I work closely with him. So I'm not saying that because I don't think we're friends, but I've worked closely with him.
Yeah.
And the guy is top shelf. So I can't see us doing anything to harm our reputation and minimize the positive impact of financial services.
Correct.
We just gotta listen, keep having open discussions and making decisions that are in the best interest of the jurisdiction, not the handful of people who always want things their way.
Correct. Thank you so much for your contribution there. Yeah.
All right, love.
Take care. Have a good evening. There you go. I want to thank that caller for calling in. Pretty much she said a lot there, but I also want to go to some of the comments that were made as, we had a request, Johan, for a kaboom. As a matter of fact, a couple. Kaboom! That was as you were speaking, but I know that there's a delay, and even when the messages come through, and if you're on a streak, those kabooms can sometimes derail you. But there you go. I honored that request. Tartarian is saying, let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, here we go. Tartarian is saying, if they don't feel that they are wanted, what did they really come here for? They are getting paid to work, right? I think Tartarian is speaking about those persons who are leaving to go to this other jurisdiction to work, and Turks and Caicos, and yeah, it's like what Johan said. They have a choice to leave, and that when you look at the way in which our people here in the Cayman Islands are embracing and all that sort of stuff, even if they go for short term, more than likely they will come. And I'm hoping that that is indeed the case, and that, he says, as he said, maybe there'll be another cycle, another purge, where there pretty much another set of people will come. He did also, for those of you just joining us, welcome. It's good to have you here with me on this Wednesday evening for another episode of Sabrina Speaks. And today's open mic. Any topic is available. You can comment, you can call and join in on the live discussion. We're going to go there with you as long as it's respectful and you are entitled to your opinion. We're here. We're here to talk about it. That's what the space is for. And in regards to just making sure that these skill sets and gaps are filled, even the caller alluded to it, that we are not having Caymanians being born or with the skill sets to adequately fill every position that will be needed. In the event that there is an exodus of any sort, whether it's drip, slowly but surely, or mass. we're still going to depend in certain industries. The conversation that I was having today was for someone who's very active in the construction industry. Hence, the conversation came about in that industry alone. Now, we're not saying that that's the same in the hospitality industry. We're not saying that's the same in the judiciary, in the legal industry. We're not saying that's the same in the medical. We're not saying that that's the same even in the finance industry. But what we're talking about is in the skilled trades here, in the construction industry, is where some signs where TCI, it's another British overseas territory, is actually becoming more attractive. And I will repeat to say that it is the developers over there that are creating packages that is attracting these persons who, of course, has nothing to lose. They're on a work permit. They're not having any interest of building Cayman, let's say, to qualify for permanent residence or anything like that. And they have the ability to move. That's their right. But what implications it has in regards to the employers for making sure that they have the adequate manpower on a lot of these job sites now, in a timely fashion, in order to not be in breach of their contractual obligations for finishing, is where the conversation came about. So these are things that is impacting, from what we're seeing, slowly beginning to impact the construction industry. Now, this conversation does not represent or reflect all industries, because we do have other industries that will probably not be impacted by what's happening. But the takeaway is that people have the right to leave if they so choose, but that could possibly have a knock-on effect on operations as well. If you have done the necessary due diligence in making sure that you're doing enough to attract Caymanians, if your environment based on your operation, the organization that you're running, is actually embracing of locals. And it's sad that I actually say that, because you've heard the caller said that some organizations just do not want Caymanians because we are branded as persons and that just have a bad attitude. We just don't want to show up to work, or when we do, we have an attitude. And that in itself, the lack thereof of supporting our own Caymanians, even in day to day, instead of tearing down each other, instead of talking ill of each other, but being more supportive, just like what we see those expatriates, those non-Caymanians that are coming here and lobbying for their very own to survive in our very own environment. That's what takeaway from the caller that I got. And I can't disagree with him, because for far too often, we really do put down our own. We don't give them enough chance or opportunities. And even if they have the brightest minds, even if they have the best attitude, you may not like their firmness, but as long as it's defending themselves in a respectful, we can agree to disagree. You've seen some conversations happen here. You've even had comments here, and it's how you tone it. We can agree to disagree. Look at Danny. I mean, sometimes, and we just smile at it. That is communication. That's open, honest, frank dialogue with respect. But when people are feeling that their own country and certain organizations do not even give them the opportunity to get a foot into the door, that's bad. And I am assuming that based on the discussions that are being had, those are the behaviors that is being desired to be stamped out in this immigration reform, so that the environments now are more conducive to entertain or to give the ability for Caymanians to not only be pigeonholed into lower end jobs, but once they have the right attitude, aptitude, show the ability, given the opportunity to elevate themselves, that the opportunities will present themselves and not be saved for their friends from a different jurisdiction because human resources is headed up, even though it may be by a Caymanian status holder, but they're looking out for their own or country of origin persons to actually work in those environments. And yes, many of times we are somewhat taken advantage of because of our very own niceness. that is used to our own demise. Good evening, Darlene. Miss Rose, thank you so much for that. Tartarian further stated, we can just build every day. We can't just build every day. My God, we will turn our island into a concrete jungle. When will the developers be happy? Yeah. And it's what, it's where, and for who is the problem, Tartarian. And I think that that is where the biggest problem is, because we're seeing all of the development that's going on, but what we're not seeing is still access for all of our Caymanians to feel as though they're a part of it. You're saying, Damien Henry says, more technical and vocational colleges needed to educate the next generation to boost the construction workforce. That's a delicate balance, Damien. To be honest, I'm not telling you that we don't need to do some technical skills and trades, but here we are. Like what was saying, how much more Tartarian says, how much more are we going to be building? So it is a delicate balance. I think we have to depend on all of the policy advisors to do the necessary background research to really understand nationally the direction in which the Cayman Islands want to go. We really need to do that. Where do we see ourselves? If we are building for tomorrow, building what? For whom? How much more? You have to factor in the rate of population, and population by who? Denny called in the other day and said that he'd gotten some statistics of births, but it wasn't clear exactly how much Caymanians were being born, but it had how much were not. So you had to do the math to determine, and there was still some percentage of that eventually we don't know if those children being born, if their parents were on their way to acquiring status or PR, whatever the case may be, because as we see with this proposal now, a lot of who's already here is going to be grandfathered in under the same terms and conditions of the current immigration legislation, right? So we are looking at that, but nationally, where do we see ourselves? Do we see ourselves diversifying and looking into medical tourism, sports tourism, other industries, agro-tourism? I don't know. I'm just looking at all of these other areas instead of just looking at key pillars. Yes, we have to make sure that the necessary infrastructure there to keep our financial services going critical. Or data point connection or internet. We're hearing about this cable and what we need to do in order to make sure that we're not cut off. And we heard about the fragility of just being able to have good internet connections and that sort of stuff now, but with Starlink as well out there, with this cable and all this sort of stuff. These are all the things that we should be looking at as well. As Johan said, we look at safety, cleanliness, legislative framework, the robustness of our education system, whether it's private or public, and the financial industry and the laws that govern how we operate here is attractive. So when we look at a master plan for the Cayman Islands, I think that is the biggest conversation that needs to be had when we talk about more technical and vocational college needed to educate next generation to boost construction workforce. We're seeing where AI is coming in. We're seeing where coding is coming in. We had UCCI on here that's saying what's happening into the digital age. We're seeing right now where you hardly use even reams of paper because everything is digital. We're just transferring everything by links and all that sort of stuff. We're seeing where that is changing. So vocational colleges, yes, for construction, that may be looking at differently in the future. But to say that we don't need more vocational offerings, yes, we do, because you will never have some that will only be in the CEO positions in any organization. We have to be able to cater to all sectors of our industry. I can't see me needing a plumber. The AI is going to do that for me. I could be honest with you. I may use the AI to tell me what could be with the flushing mechanism, for example, but I can tell you the truth. If she clog, AI going to unclog that for me. I still going to have to call a company if there's something with, let's say, a propane leak or a gas leak in my place, or the AC handler needs to be changed or something, I can't see AI going into my attic and removing that. But there may be other things for diagnostic testings. There are just certain things that we just have to conform ourselves in order to be embracing of all of these. So, Damian Hendry, I see where you're going with that. But I think nationally, the Cayman Islands really need to know what foundations we are setting, national directions where we're going to go in order to determine what will the future workforce look like with a balance of embracing AI, because it's here. It's here. And I think that is a big question nationally that we need to look at. We really need to take a bird's eye view to see what are we going to try to be the best at or to be competitive. And we're seeing where the legislation is in place in order to have already begun the framework of blockchain and cryptocurrency here, because it is already happening. And there is legislation that has already been passed. And the Minister of Financial Services, who is our premier, is actually have created all of that with stakeholders in order to position us to have the Cayman Islands in a position where we can actually keep our financial services active and alive, because we have built in or is in the process of building in the necessary infrastructure, which is connectivity, legislation, and regulations that can make sure that persons who are diversifying their portfolios here, that it's now going to be tokenized, meaning digital, that the necessary security features in legislation and otherwise are there to protect those so that we can remain an attractive jurisdiction now. But the pace in which this is actually going, it is imperative that those decisions are made quite quickly, because I did some research, and when I looked at the big risks, some information that I found, it actually has in the financial industry that the Cayman Islands host over 30,000 registered funds. This little island hosts right now 30,000 registered funds. And blockchain could change how these funds are managed, audited, and even traded. So when you look at in an earlier podcast, earlier in a couple months back, I spoke very briefly on the Virtual Asset Service Providers Act as VATS. That was passed here in the Cayman Islands in 2020. And in 2024, it was updated. And that piece of legislation gave us here in the Cayman Islands credibility by moving blockchain activity just out there in the wild, wild west, as you would term it, into a supervised, regulated space. So to say that we're not already there, now whether it's enough, no, it's not. We've just started. Because when you look at places like the global competition now, because they're into this whole space, and I'm going to get to the comments in a second, you're looking at Dubai, you're looking at Singapore, the European Union. They all have similar laws that we have that was updated in 2024. And even though we here in the Cayman Islands are at an early start to create this pretty much expertise and be attracted the talent in order to keep us alive, it dovetails right into what the last caller said, that we have great people at the head of the table and we can only trust them to help guide us. Now, we spoke even about tokenization when I had UCCI on, and as long as in the next year and a half that we do what we have to do in order to make sure that the consultation on these laws allows formal financial tokenization, it has to all make sense. And then that would turn like our assets into real estates and tangible digital stuff. We had a breakdown on it. And I'll probably bring somebody back on, because this conference that took place here from the 9th until the 11th pretty much states we're in position. We're posturing ourselves legislatively and otherwise, and I'm guessing conversations around certain tables are being had that makes us still, for now, in a position that we can still be an attractive market for the financial industry, which is very good, to be honest. Tartarian, lazy people are in every country. Lazy people are sole traders who do not want to turn their own business and would rather hire cheap labor. Yeah, you see, those are some of the cultures based on the robust legislation. But you can have the law, Tartarian, and you don't have the enforcement arm. The law means nothing if it's not being enforced. And that is where we're saying the gatekeepers now has to come in line with whatever the outcome of this immigration reform comes. And I will agree with Danny. We still don't know the regulations that will come along with this until it's debated on the floor. There could be amendments as well. But the regulations that the operational arm of this immigration reform will be actually the end all be all for how it will come into place. Hey, Lisa, how are you? Good, Sabrina. As the song goes, baby, don't take my kindness for weakness. Yeah, and I think that is to our own demise, Lisa, to be honest with you. Scotty B, what jobs are we expecting to have a boost in Cayman employment? More restrictive immigration means a lot of low-skilled jobs, low-paid jobs would be the first open up. And you're asking that as a question. Scott, I think this is almost a waiting game because, like I said earlier on, I'm not so sure at what point you joined in the discussion, the conversation that I was having. I really had that with somebody who was in the construction industry. And if, let's say, devil's advocate here, that our brothers and sisters over in the Turks and Caicos, and I repeat, is a British overseas territorial jurisdiction, just like us here. Let's say all of their hotels come on stream because there are some high end, the Ritz and all that sort of stuff are happening over there, just similar to what we're doing here. And a lot of those skilled laborers then find themselves there. It will speak a lot about the private-public partnership and the type of language and conversations that their political arm will have with those investors and those developers. And at the same time, parallel with their own people, not making what has happened here feel as though their people have been left out. So what jobs are we expecting? And there's a possibility that it'll be the low-wage jobs. We're seeing that happening all over the world, Scott, that some of these in the US, those are looking to work on farms and that sort of stuff. Ain't no American going out there to do that. Nope. Those are all imported labor. So I see where you're going and I agree with you. So it is almost a wait and see game, almost, I feel. And at the end of the day, it still goes back to nationally. Where do we want to go as a jurisdiction when it comes to the environment to create job opportunities? What sectors are we going to diversify? Understanding the geopolitical climate that is happening, whether or not you understand it or not. And that could impact a lot of things. You're seeing tariffs. And if you're thinking that that's not impacting the cost of building, the cost of renovating and so forth. And I'm quite sure other sectors as well, we're seeing that happening even on our shelves. We need to know what industries we're going to probably look into outside of tourism, finance, that sort of stuff that could keep us viable, to be honest. Miss Dorothy, good evening to you, my love. Tartarian, correction, life is not all about work. I know it's all about a balance. It's about a balance, Tartarian. It is, but you could be on a sabbatical right now and don't know where the next dime is coming from, Tartarian. And you go on a vacation that is paid. Let's say your family sends you on an all expense European cruise. Not a dime out of your pocket. But you know, when that comes to an end, you're still going back home and don't know where the next dime is coming because you're unemployed. It's about a balance, I agree. But it all depends on your situation. Some of it is beyond your control. Some of the setbacks in people's lives are orchestrated. Some of the setbacks in your very own country is by design. So having a work-life balance, I totally agree with you. But sometimes that is almost hard to achieve because it appears as though everybody is just scrambling right now to survive. And the balance right now is hard to achieve because it is all about work. And even when you work, it's like your dollar isn't giving you the mileage it used to. So that's Tartarian. I see where you're going and it isn't. But in order to get to that point in your life, if you're not already retired or about to be retired and your kids are okay, that is almost like a distant memory, because we have some persons that are able, willing to work right now that have been aged out of the system. Some have just been, by design, not allowed back into a system, and societal pressures. So, yeah, some people got a balance and still don't have work. So it all depends on each person's situation. Scott, these conversations about crypto and digital finance are so beyond the average person in Cayman. You're right. And that's why I need to bring it up. And we're not having enough conversations about it. Danny Warren is the only one that's talking about it. I would bet there are more residents without a bank account that invest in any digital assets. I would bet there are more residents without a bank account that invest. You're onto something, Scott. And it is happening behind us. And that is why, Scott, I'm having the conversation, because no one should be left behind because of all of this is happening. You heard the caller. He was pretty much versed in it. Denny has been talking about it. It is happening, and we should not isolate ourselves from the realities. The mere fact that there is legislation around these digital currencies and tokenization, it means someone that you have elected knows what's going on. Why aren't they talking in layman's terms? Those legislations aren't changed unless it's discussed in some corridors of elected arms, be it in cabinet or caucus. And in cabinet, they're elected people. So we're going to need a lot more education on this in layman's terms. And I'm hoping that as we continue, maybe there could be a finance show, I don't know, that can break it down in layman's terms, because you literally have to break it down. People are just now getting comfortable with smartphones to be able to do a link where they can even see cmrtv.com on their phone or to understand a link. And now we're talking about digital wallets. What are you talking about when all I know about going with a bank book to a bank and walking out with cash? Now you're going to tell me there's no cash, but I have a digital wallet? Yeah, Scott, we need to have a lot more conversations. And this is why I'm bringing it up. I'm no expert, but I'm also taking the time to try and educate myself. That way I can go up my pace to understand it. Danny calls in all the time and he speaks about it, even though sometimes he's in sixth form and I'm still in kindergarten with the level of his conversations. The mere fact that we are having it and we're having these huge conferences that are happening here, the average person is being left out. And we need to have the conversations a little bit more so that we do not feel like we're cave people. Not Ashley 345. There are thousands of Filipinos that will love to come and work in the construction industry. They build large buildings in their country. Not only Jamaicans can do construction. And I never at one point alluded to that, because when I talk about it, they're the highest number here, of course, because of just location. But based on when you joined me, I said it wasn't just Jamaicans that were leaving for the purpose of this conversation and how we started. It was Hondurans, Colombians, Canadians that are being attracted right now to the Turks and Caicos. I did not say only Jamaicans, because as a matter of fact, they are not the only ones that are leaving. That's not the only. And no, some of the neatest persons that I know in finishing work are not even Jamaicans. Nope, they're Hondurans, Latin American people. Their skills, their carpentry skills is top notch. So no, yeah. So not Ashley, just for clarity there. If you're just joining us or joined us late, I said it at the beginning. There is a number of other nationalities that are actually leaving. Lisa, Sabrina, we don't need any more construction here on our little rock. The beaches are now concrete jungle. Yeah, and I think true and honest conversation, I feel that in hindsight, even though some of them may not agree publicly, there have been some regrets. If you could have only seen the future, I think it would not have happened. I feel that more attention, more listening and adhering to guidance that were given back in the day would have been taken into consideration if they had the crystal ball that could see the future. But at the time, I guess they were going based on what they felt best. I don't know. I can't speak for the past. But I know for sure that when certain things were seen, that the warnings were given by some top locals who were warning about beach erosion and flooding. And then you saw time after time where, for example, the high water mark kept moving down, up, down. And that was to really appease at times some developers. But if we were just consistent, and now we can say it because we're speaking in hindsight, I think even those with what is happening right now who were in some positions would, if they're honest with themselves, and I hope they have forgiven themselves or asked God for forgiveness, that they're actually regretful or that they're regretting. You can't tell people don't sell their land, because apparently a number of Caymanians owned along the 7 Mile corridor back in the day. But with what they knew at that time, they probably thought it was a lot of money and they divested. And we can't tell people what to do with their property. It's the legislation that will speak to preserve our environment, and that's with a balance. And that is a huge debate now that we're seeing even happening, Lisa, with the extension of the road going east-west arterial. And it's, again, a constant fight. So looking back at the past and where we are right now coastally is where level heads, advice taking, sound research with a balance of understanding the needs of our people will be key. And just being able to make a decision that will land everybody happy and still protect our wetlands, our environment, to comply with our constitution, but still meet a demand for infrastructure, roads, I think would help us. And that's going to take a lot of massaging, but time is waiting on no one. As we see our population continue to grow, which that could probably be another show. And we see where the demand for public transport comes in, which is probably why. But to say that we don't need an alternate route in and out of the eastern districts, we do. Which one? How it impacts developments is already there, and what it affects with the channeling of stormwater management and all that sort of stuff is all a part of the discussion. So at the end of the day, my love, yeah, how much more can we do? But that 7 Mile corridor, which is our livelihood where our tourism product is concerned, Lisa, if we could turn back the hands of time, I bet you we would do things a little bit better. Good evening, Marshall. Late to class. I will assume it's the cold that has you locked in. But yeah, so when we look at that, where we have with the mom and pop stores, as we look into what we're talking about, this block, Gene Scott, everybody could be impacted by this. Where you're talking about, you see what's happening now in Jamaica as well. where persons actually have money on their cards. And of course, I guess didn't expect it to come at the magnitude that it has and the hardest hit areas. It's not that people don't have money. It's just all on a card. And for them to actually go about now, the banks and the ATM machines were down or what wasn't stolen, whatever the case may be, but you get my point. They needed cash in order to actually to purchase some stuff for the little mom and pop stores that were able to kind of rebound. And you had persons with money on their debit cards and couldn't buy a thing because there was no vehicle in order for them to do that exchange because they didn't have cash. So that is quite interesting. Gina, good evening, everyone. Let them keep building. Mother Nature have its way of reclaiming her land. You can't hear, you'll surely feel. You're quite right. You saw what happened in Jamaica as well. And they're linking that to global warming. But yeah, I really feel, Gina, to be honest, if we could turn back the hands of time, we would probably do things a little differently along the 7 Mile corridor. But it's already there now. At what point do you say enough is enough? And that's going to take everyone understanding and listening and have legislation that is being upheld by the gatekeepers. Because it's not that we do not have legislation. However, I do agree that certain parts of the planning law need some more teeth for the enforcement officers in order to be impactful and effective in the execution of their duties. In order for them to do their job and give us the results that we need, there are some tweaks, some amendments to the planning law where development is concerned. And I spoke about that the other day when I talked about in residential communities where we have new developments that are being built. And right now the law remains silent. I stand to be corrected. And if it's in draft form, hooray, where developers are, the law states that when you're developing that you put the necessary infrastructure in place that you're not flooding out your neighbors. And there's pretty much little to nothing being said on that, even if it can be joint partnership with the government and the developer. I think something needs to be in legislation for that because people have been crying for that. And then nationally as well, you realize our stormwater management needs to also be addressed. So there are a number of things. And like what people says, it's impossible for people for any one administration to get it done in a 4-year term because you need to do environmental impact studies. And I know people don't like to hear about that because it's very costly. And the pace, Lisa, oh my God, the pace is what's killing the deliverables. And you want to be able, when you address the nation for certain things, that you have been given with the best advice in order to present to the people that works for the people. And when it comes to development, that it also preserves it. So no one politician really goes in knowing everything. They are heavily reliant and dependent on experts of possibly who they consult with, who are experts in certain fields, and of course, public participation from everyday Caymanians like you and I. And this is why forums like this is critical. And even though some people may say, well, they have been to certain meetings and and you're limited with your amount of questions or whatever the case may be, okay, fine. Sometimes we would be there for 3-4 hours, but spaces like this, the cold hard truth, that's where you have these discussions. We're not coming with all the solutions, but at least we can ventilate some of the issues that the average person is seeing. This is why a member for civil society is important in a lot of these boards and councils. It doesn't mean, for example, let's say I'm on the Cayman Airways board, example. I use the planes, I travel, but does it mean that I have to be an expert in there? I could see it from a different perspective as a regular member of civil society. And this is why you try to diversify persons that sits on boards and councils and not just have a board full of experts. Because would you really say then that is a fair representation of everyone? So it's quite interesting how we're going to evolve as a society moving forward. But when it comes back to this cryptocurrency and the new way forward of tokenization and all of these terms, I will continue to use them, because the more we start using them, when we hear it being used in certain spaces, when you read certain newspaper articles and that sort of stuff, you would say, hold on, Miss Sabrina was saying something about that. Or Scott said something. Let me go back to that if you can remember the episode. I'm just saying. But the more we actually talk about it, we become a part of our society. That's investing in yourself. And clarity is going to be needed. There are new opportunities that could come about it. But bottom line is, in addition to clarity, education is imperative. Because without proper understanding, the risk to every Caymanian could be exposed to fraud, their vulnerability, and regulations helps as well. But awareness is going to be the key. So, yeah, I know that's language that we're using that we're not used to, whether Sabrina's into cryptocurrency or not. But I know one thing, I've been seeing it a lot more. It's almost like AI is going hand in hand with cryptocurrency and then the digital ID, and then you're hearing all about these things. So I'm like, I'm hearing these things coming up. And sometimes all you have to do is to just Google one word, and you will be blown away by what comes up. And you keep asking those questions so that you can penetrate what you're actually putting into Google, for example. And it's amazing how you can educate yourself. And then when you read certain articles, it then one and one does make two. But I gotta be honest with you, we should double down on making sure that we are aware. I'm hoping that the powers be will actually be inclusive in how they speak, and don't use the language, the jargon that only persons in the industry uses, because that would be a disservice to every regular person, to be honest, unless you're an expert in the field. Gina, we're like a runaway train when it comes to development. Us Caymanians are the problem. We have no one else to blame. It is shared, to be honest. And Gina, I feel at the end of the day, we are reactive as a society. We have remained very silent, even though we're listening, even though we're observing, even though we're non-participatory in certain forums. Caymanians are very much awake. The sad thing is, though, is exactly what Johan spoke about. Where is the togetherness? What will bind us together? Will it be adversity? Will it be? Or will we still have that mindset that pretty much segregates? Classism is what you call it then. And for us to survive, we need all classes. And at the end of the day, a lot of the runaway train that we're feeling is exactly what is being stated, that Caymanians feel that we're developing so fast that there's no room for oneself, one's child or grandchildren, and they're feeling like they're losing hope. It's quite interesting, Gina, because I'm hearing the very same things from our brothers and sisters in the region. And you're hearing people are feeling that they're left out. But by no means, what I'm about to say, am I taking up? I'm just for any government or any decisions. This is just for the context of this conversation. When you look at how governments have to function, and this is the elective arm now, in order to keep an economy running so that you can hopefully harness an environment that creates job opportunities, be attractive for investors, aka developers. What happens if that all falls flat? The government has a responsibility to make sure that they have sound legislation in place, creates an environment with laws, regulations that will be attractive. The other elements is where cleanliness, education, healthcare industries, safety, which is our national security, all of those things create that environment. And then guess what is the bedrock of all of that? Your people, us. That culture, who we are, is really what plays into all of this, like baking a cake. And at the end of the day, the government is tasked with making sure that they create that while balancing and keeping the lines of communication open with the people who have elected them to serve, to say that it's in their best interest. So whether we will be in that sweet spot where you will get the perfect elected arm that will actually check the boxes, there's a lot of cleaning up once and for all that has to be done. But the environment, geopolitics, natural disasters, life don't stop to wait until any one jurisdiction gets caught up, until any country gets the right president, prime minister, or elected arm. You have to, at the end of the day, do a lot of things at the same time. But to avoid a disconnect from your people, it takes a lot of positive reinforcement, reassurance, open, honest, frank discussions, and create the environment for participation, no matter where you fall, class, creed, or color, or even education, because we all have to exist in our islands. And it doesn't matter at the end of the day when it comes to existing and surviving in your own country, what color you are. We still have to shop at the same supermarkets. We still get electricity from the same company. We still get water from the same 2 companies. And if we get sick, it's the same healthcare facilities that we have access to based on your situation. So if you're thinking, even if we don't understand blockchain, digital currency, digital ID, AI, that it won't impact every person, every sector on this island, you got another guess coming. Even for those who haven't even entered the workforce yet. And it's really a big task at hand for an elected arm to really just get that balance right. And this is why I feel that it may sound very good on a campaign stage. People first, Caymanians first. But when the Caymanians don't see it in results, when Caymanians and the own people don't see it in how you even engage, how accessible you are, then it creates doubt. So the runaway train that you're talking about, my love, many of these things that were passed 8-10 years ago are just coming to head now. And who gets the blame for a lot of the development is the current government. But in order to pass a lot of these things, there's a board. And the board can only approve certain things in accordance to law. It boils back down again to the gatekeepers, to who you have on these boards. And are they listening? Where's the policy directive from any government in order to steer these boards and councils? You have to give them marching orders from the collective government in order for these boards and councils to pretty much direct the path in which they have sold you as a country during the campaign. And if that doesn't happen, then Gina, it's a runaway train. So I think now that we're having spaces like this, where we're having frank, honest, very open conversations, coming in a nonpartisan way, coming in an educational, informative way. And whenever we have persons who are willing to join us to add more context to it, we welcome them. But until such time, environments such as this, so that everyone is not caught off guard, you will not necessarily be experts at everything, but you can't say that you haven't heard. You can't say that you didn't hear a term being used, or maybe Miss Sabrina had said something, or Sandra may have said something, or, oh, there was a guest that was talking about this. I don't feel anybody should be caught like that. Like how Scott said, we are far out of our league when it comes to some of these conversations. And it's sad. These conversations about crypto and digital finance are so beyond the average person in Cayman. That was profound. And Gina, it only solidifies exactly what I'm saying. We need to have more of the conversations, very frank. And persons like yourself and everybody who comments needs to do that more, because you are the true reflection of Caymanians. You're not coming on here as no expert. You're just coming on as someone who loves Cayman, who doesn't want to see us lose our way, who want to always want the best for Cayman. And that's why it's important to hear from persons like yourselves, so that we can just hash it out here. Because I agree with Scott. They're not getting it. They're not understanding it. But yet we have so much legislation out there that has been amended in 2024. And I'll get the messages after the show to say, Sabrina, we didn't know. We didn't know. What do you mean it's been amended? We didn't even know. I bet you the light switch going on now. I can remember someone asking a question whether or not cryptocurrency is being done here, and somebody answered, yeah, it's happening. Some offices on 7 Mile Corridor. It is happening. So if you think it isn't here, my love, a lot of things are already here. Tartarian, it seems like past governments has allowed developers to shape Cayman. They had no plan, which goes on to what telling you we need a national plan to see where we're going to go. And even if past governments did it, let's not think so insular, not at you, Tartarian, I'm speaking in general. Some people may just go beyond, let's say, the past 2 administrations and say, yeah, that administration did it. Some of these plans we have heard have been approved for 8, 10, 12 years ago that are just now breaking ground. And who's going to get the blame? The current sitting government. And it's not that you're pointing the finger, but when we actually, look at the development along Walker's Road that they want to build by Vigoro. You know how much years I saw that sign there? And as the people started to break ground, now I'm not going into the details because I didn't look into it. Then you heard this outcry. Why are we doing this? It's going to be traffic. You see what I'm saying? I personally saw that sign there for years. I think that was after Ivan. Whatever the case may be, I stand to be corrected. What I'm saying is they have been advertising that complex for years. And I'm hoping, not putting my foot in my mouth, but I'm hoping that if they were that bold, the developers, proprietors, were able to advertise the future home of whatever, that they would not have been able to do that unless they had gotten some sort of green light that their plans would have been approved, right? Even if, let's say, there were conditions. Because I think I read something where planning was reviewing something else because of some habitat or some tree or something, whatever it is. Again, please don't quote me. But what I'm saying is, for years, that sign was there. And it's only now that the development has broken ground that you're going to hear, this government is no better than the other governments. Da 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 da. Look at what they're doing. It's going up. Them things been there for years. Years. So I think the more informed we are, the more educated we are, you would see the level of commentary and the level of discussion being had elevated to a different level. But we all have to be a part of this growing community, an educational, informative community, so that when you start spewing certain things, you're not looked at as though you're a cave person or you're ignorant or you're just angry because things are changing. I think that as we continue to build this space and we educate and inform one another, that the exchange in communications will be as such that persons will say, wow, they've done their research. I can understand where they're coming from. And maybe these developers may be a little bit more receptive to consider what Caymanians are saying, the concerns that environmentalists are having, and in regards to preserving our past or incorporating it into any development. I think we just need to do a little bit more of that, but it's going to take every one of us willing. Some of the conversations are going to be hard. They're going to be hard. And it's going to feel as though we have been played sometimes or have been taken advantage of because of our own ignorance. Don't beat yourself up. That's in the past. Let's look forward. Let's change our thinking. Let's change our culture. Not repeating what has already happened, but with the mindset that moving forward, it is worth trying to save by when we're being vocal, when it comes to supporting Caymanians, when it comes to embracing those who have chosen to make Cayman their home, and they're not rude, they're not trying to step on us, that we stand together in unity for the very same fabric of who we are as Caymanian and wear that flag proud. Because until every one of us take up that mantle and be proud of who we are, be embracing of everyone, of course, it could be diluted down by those who come here because they play us at our own game. They play us at our own game. But not everyone comes here with that agenda. You have a lot. I have in my former life, not political, former life, met some very good persons who just came here. They respected us. They helped mentor a lot of Caymanians, went on to getting their status. And their kids now, I see them. I know them, some of them from in utero. And you would not know that those children are not Caymanians. Mine is Chinese and Asian looking as you wouldn't believe. That's only one segment. You got some blonde and blue eye, but if you hear those kids open their mouths, you wouldn't know. Yeah, close your eyes. That's a Caymanian that's speaking. But I agree with what Johan said. The breed that come in now is a different breed than who we have here or who came earlier on. But I feel that the environment is still here, and that even though we can be angry at ourselves for probably not speaking out a little earlier, for remaining in the shadows too long because it's not on your doorstep, then it's not your problem. But realizing that where we're going, it's going to impact everyone, no matter what your social status is, no matter where you live. There are some national decisions that are being had in order for all of us to survive in this country, happening internationally, geopolitical climate. And I'm going to challenge you all to go and just use whatever AI tools you want or Google. Just Google geopolitics. And then put that into context to what's happening. And then you can see possibly, maybe from how you see it, risk or no risk to the Cayman Islands. But I'm going to challenge you for that one. Go and Google, put in geopolitics. What does it mean? How does this impact the Cayman Islands? Where does that align us as a British Overseas Territory citizen? And maybe just say, I'm in my 50s, I'm in my 60s. How does geopolitics affect me? Because Cayman is the only home that I have. You can literally prompt that. And I bet you will get an answer. I challenge you all tonight to just do that. So that when we actually have these conversations, and who to tell, you may take it on to a different level. And you go into break down in simple terms, what is blockchain? What is cryptocurrency? Do that. These are simple little things that if you can send a WhatsApp, you can go and Google and you can Google that. and keep asking it the same questions, like if you wanted to ask me something, and just do it. It'll be interesting what you come up with. And I want to challenge you, because we can no longer continue to be a developing country that we are, that the caller says everybody comes back here because of exactly what we have maintained: cleanliness, safety, infrastructure, financial industry, medical wise, and just the warmth and what we have to offer. And we Caymanians get left out. We shouldn't be saying that, because technology is for everyone, doesn't matter how old you are. And if you're even scared of doing it, call a grandkid, call your son or daughter to say, do it. You'll be surprised what you pull up. Hey, Tisha, so important to point out that we need to be mindful that when we blame any sitting government for at any given time, because many of what we see happening in the present was signed, sealed, and delivered. Yes, profound. And it's true. And I said that earlier on, Tisha. It is true. But it's the legislation that is lacking the teeth. And I feel that is to our biggest disservice. And hindsight is 2020. So I'm really hoping that we can learn from the mistakes of the past. And moving forward, we will take that. But that too, there's a lot of selfishness. There's a lot of deep pockets where they tend to appear to capitalize on the backs of poor people. And when you get that mindset out of the way and start looking at everybody, giving everybody a fair chance, then sometimes we will see a change. But whether or not it's too late, nope, we can make the change. It's not too late. I have all faith and trust. Call me naive if you want. That the brave ones who are willing to come out, stand up, speak on behalf of everyone, knowing that they're putting themselves at risk for educating, for informing, from doing the research and being able to share and impart that knowledge with the entire population. Let me just be clear right now. We don't have to do it, but we do it because we love our country, and we're not hoarders, meaning we don't keep it to ourselves. You may not like us sometimes because we're long-winded. We get very passionate and we scream because sometimes it hurts. It hurts. But we don't have to do it. But we do it because we love our country. And sometimes you just want to scoop in and save people. And sometimes those who we have stood on the shoulders of in order to elevate ourselves, if you recall back what a lot of them said in the past, it's really seeing the negative impacts right now, what they were warning us to come right now. But we don't have to continue down this road. Let's make a personal decision to change exactly our mindset, be more loving, being more conscious of how we tear down one another, and be more inclusive of each other, embracing of those who really want to be a part of our society. And I think we would be a better Cayman. But I want to thank everyone for sticking and staying with me today for this edition of Sabrina Speaks. Yes, we have come to an end of this episode. And thank you for all of you who joined me. Thank you for everyone who participated. And yeah, I'm looking forward to coming back here with you tomorrow to engage a little bit more. Oh, I think I had said, what did I say about the bond? Yeah, let me go into that tomorrow. The insurance, should we have a catastrophe? Yeah, I will go into that tomorrow. I can do a little bit more research as well. But no, the answer to the question was no, we don't have it. But the Premier is asking for government to consider a catastrophe bond should anything of that nature happens. And I would have no problem, based on what research I'm finding, what it means, how it works in layman terms, that sort of stuff, to share with you here again. But yeah, it has been a pleasure bringing you another episode. Donna, yes, we will big up Winston tomorrow for his birthday. Again, please be safe on the roads. Bodden Town Heritage Day festivities continues, hoping that the weather holds up and that they will get a good showing out there this evening and tomorrow. All roads lead to Cardinal Avenue for Georgetown Heritage Day festivities. And I am looking forward to going out there and getting me some good old Caymanian food. Yeah. Until tomorrow, please enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for remaining with me. Thank you for putting up with me. And I'm hoping that every episode, and just like today, that there are nuggets of inspiration and educational information that you took away. Until tomorrow, God bless. Love you lots. Take care.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.